Well, as I said, Bernard did this talk on Pauline Botu last week, which is very interesting. And I came across this book, Bright Stars, which is by a lady called Kate Bryan. And it's about great artists who died too young. Now, I picked out a few items from it, which I thought might be interesting, but let's see. Okay. And the first person I chose was Caravaggio. He was the bad boy of art history, basically. He caused scandals by using prostitutes and criminals as models and all the rest of it. He killed a man in an illegal duel in Rome, and he had to flee. And he was constantly being sought by various people. And he ended up in Malta, where he died of a fever aged 29, and was buried in an unmarked grave. But this is the card shops, which is one of my favorite Caravaggios because it's a bit lighter than most, and it tells a story that this young man being cheated by these two street boys. Has a very modern look about it, considering it's, you know,
I like his hat.
Yeah, 400 years old or whatever. But there you go. Perhaps the more familiar Caravaggio type. There you go. Perhaps the more familiar Caravaggio type painting. Beheading of John the Baptist. Who's this rather fey-looking gentleman? Prince of Painters. Raphael, 1483 to 1520. Part of the triumvirate of the Renaissance painters with Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Perhaps one of his most famous paintings is the School of Athens, which you may have probably recognized. Fantastic use of colour, I think. Madonna and Child thing. Also, sorry, Sandy, but not averse to painting your female portrait. He was a sort of, I don't know, you get the feeling that he was kind of a saintly sort of guy, but in fact, he died aged 37 after a night of vigorous lovemaking with his mistress.
Serves him right.
Here we have Vermeer, according to my notes, lived from 1832 to 1675, which is kind of impossible. I think it's probably 1632, but there we are. Quite a serious bloke. Not much known about his life, really. And he died, how old was he? 42. When he passed on, in poverty, and he was forgotten for many years. He only did 40 paintings, of which I think 34 survive. But probably this is his most famous.
Oh, beautiful.
The Girl with the Pearl Earring, which has become known as the Mona Lisa of the North. That's it. Yeah, that's what they call it. But they've made a film and all sorts of things about it.
I think it's better than the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful. Even just the pearl itself is exquisite, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the face is, I don't know.
Lovely. Lovely.
Youthful and beautiful and light and all the rest of it.
Glorious.
Yeah, this is another of his famous paintings. And he wrote a lot of his paintings about domestic life. You know, considering this is, I don't know, how old would it be? 300 years old. It's got a modern look about it still. Oh yeah, do you remember they made a film by Van Meegeren or some guy, the famous forger, the most successful forger in history, who painted some paintings and pretended they were by Vermeer, and they were sold to the Nazi Party. Hermann Goering paid an awful lot of money for one of them, and then it was found out that it was a fake, which was probably one of the brighter sides of that period of history. But
I like the loaf. I wonder if it's sourdough.
Oh.
Oh, banal, Bernard.
you've got a 16th century battery on the floor at the side. You all know who this is. Vincent.
Go.
Vincent
Our friend.
Yeah. 1853 to 1890. I mean, he did suffer from mental problems, and he had, you know, but there was more to him than all that. He was a polymath, in fact. Spoke fluent French, English, German, as well as Dutch. And he was incredibly well read. He was a big fan of Dickens. Sadly, he shot himself when he was 37. I didn't sell any paintings during his lifetime, but he was taken up by Degas, amongst others, after his death.
Such a shame.
There is one of
the
famous, there are many, many versions of this that he did of the sunflowers, but this is probably his most famous thing. This one is the
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Garden at Arles, which is, I don't know, it looks slightly pointillistic, you know, kind of surreal. This is one of my favorite artists.
Lautrec.
Toulouse-Lautrec, yeah. Aristocratic French family, born in 1864, died age 36 in 1901. Posters, he was in the Art Nouveau post-impressionist period, but he was more to him than just posters. And we know the famous ones of the Moulin Rouge and Jane Avril and La Goulou and all those, but this one I love. This is called La Toilette, which you know, post-impressionist. And I love this one. I've never seen this one before. It's called The Lit in Bed.
It looks very comfy, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, kind of. It looks like one of those beds that dips in the middle, and they're going to tip towards it. His parents were first cousins, and obviously an arranged marriage. And when he was a young boy, he had lots of problems and fractures and all the rest of it. And after the age of 12, his legs didn't grow. So he had an adult male torso, but perched on a child's legs. So, his object of much scorn and the rest of it. But he managed to produce this magnificent work. And he died aged 36 from alcoholism and syphilis. Ermendo Modigliani, 1884 to 1920. There's a legend about the struggling artist, but in fact he was quite successful in his lifetime. He did sell quite a lot of work, and he had exhibitions in Paris, New York, and London. He died of tuberculosis, age 36. But this time it's a different view, Sandy. But he was famous for his name. He was also famous for.
It's very strangely proportioned. No, get it.
Well, yes, her thigh is a peculiar shape, isn't it? Don't you
It's
think?
obviously is a bum
she
fanatic.
was called Thunder Thighs. You're all right. You will perhaps all recognise this.
Oh, Lowry. That's a Lowry. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lady called Charlotte Solomon, who was born in Berlin, and she's kind of prolific in her 26 years. This is a self-portrait. I think it's lovely. She was born in 1917, and she, very kind of modern, but something about it actually. And this is a sort of mixture of art and It's a stage thing, a singspiel actually.
Right,
Yes,
yeah.
it's a singspiel. It's a kind of musical version of, and this is what her main claim to fame was that she produced 769 gouache prints, 13 inches by 10 inches, with scripts
Good Lord.
posed upon them, and this, which was semi-autobiographical. Sadly, she escaped from the Nazis to the south of France, but she was captured in 1943, and she died in Auschwitz,
Oh,
5 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And much of her work now is in the Jewish Museum in Berlin, but an English lady, Helen Chadwick, 1953 to 1996, very feminist, kind of take things away from the male gaze, innovative and fun, I think, as well as anything else. But and here's one of her sculptures as well. Interesting character. She was a great teacher. She used all kinds of media, fluids, body fluids, and all the rest of it. She had a big exhibition in 1995 at the MoMA in New York. Sadly, she died from a sudden heart attack, aged 42.
Yeah.
Jean-Michel Basquiat, yeah, obviously heard of. New Yorker from Puerto Rican and Haitian heritage. He was a graffiti artist, amongst other things. He was concerned with dichotomies, wealth versus poverty, integration versus segregation, etc. And he tended to match text with graphics. He died from a heroin overdose, aged 27. Some of his work. Robert Mapplethorpe, photographer, 1946 to 89, famous for his black and white photographs of celebrities, male and female nudes, and he was particularly obsessed with the gay male. But here's one of his fantastic. I love black and white photographs, anyways. I'm always going on.
Yeah, that's a fantastic one.
But that is brilliant. And this is a very interesting one of, you know who that is, don't you?
Andy Warhol.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andy Warhol, yeah. Okay. He was, his sex life seems to be rather bizarre. He was a boyfriend of Patti Smith, musician and activist, from 1967 to 72, and they remained friends throughout his life. But he died of HIV/AIDS, age 42, in 1989. This happy face is very tragic. This is Khadija Say. I don't know, S-A-Y-E. I think you pronounce it Sayer. She was born in 1992. She's parents were Gambian, but she lived in London. Went to an ordinary school, but she was at the age of 16. She won a scholarship to rugby school, and then she went on to art school and what have you. But she was a photographer mainly. She was exploring her Gambian British heritage. Sadly, she died with her mother in the Grenfell fire.
Oh, wow.
I remember that. I remembered that happened.
One of her paintings, one of the photographs, I should say. You can always look them up. This is not by her, but it's about her, and it's the artist Chris O'Philly. You remember him?
Yeah.
The one who used to use elephant dung in some of his paintings, but this is a tribute to her. It was in the Tate Modern, I think.
Well, it's great.
And it's after she died in the fire, I think it's a very expressive, very beautiful painting, actually, very sad as well. Okay. From the sublime to the bizarre. Aubrey Beardsley, 1872 to 1898, probably the youngest, well, the shortest life that recorders did today. He was interested in Japanese woodcuts, and he depicted the grotesque, the decadent, and the erotic. But he's quite a clever workman. He was a leading figure in the aesthetic movement alongside Oscar Wilde and Whistler. Much of his work is Art Nouveau poster style. He was possibly bisexual. There is a rumor that he had a child with his sister, who committed suicide long afterwards. He died of tuberculosis on the French Riviera, aged 25. And then the grotesque, and also Art Deco, and also
I remember posters of his work very popular in the 60s.
Yes, yes. And well, there was all that Art Nouveau stuff in the 60s and 70s. Okay, I've not said anything about Pauline Botti. This is just a portrait that Bernard talked about last week. So I don't believe that. It says we're already out. Anyway, but his name is Bartholomew Beale. Born in 1989 and died in 2019. American artist. And some of his work is stunning. I just love those.
Oh gosh.
I think it's just brilliant.
Yeah. I didn't notice it at first.
Well, yeah, you have to look into it, don't you?
It's weird. Very
Yeah.
Oh, it's a little wren as well. That's interesting.
And it reminds me of somebody. I don't know who it is, but it reminds me of somebody.
Stephen, what's his name?
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Oh, the chap who was murdered in London.
Yeah, it does look a bit like him.
Yes, there is a look about him.
Yeah.
Oh,
the hands.
the hands and
anyway,
the paint.
He died aged 30 of a brain tumor. Just did a thing about all these people, giving them the titles that Katie Bryan does. So she got Caravaggio as the bad boy of art history. She writes a chapter about it. There are lots of other artists in the book, but these are Creating to Survive, Charlotte Solomon, who died in the gas chamber. Helen Chadwick, the arch feminist. Michelle Basquiat, rockstar painter. Robert Mapplethorpe, photographer extraordinaire. Khadija Said sadly lost her life in the Grenfell fire with her mum. Aubrey Beardsley, weirdo of the Burley Cook, I suppose. And Bartholomew Beale, a literary and vibrant painter.
Thank you.
That was great.
Thank you. That was very interesting.
There you go. Anyway, thank you for listening.
It's really
Thank
good, great.
you. That was
Enjoy.
really interesting. Thank you.